Hello and welcome back to Inquisitor Martyr. Last time we kept going with the Void Crusade, and I struggled with this menu for an ungodly amount of time, and we're going to keep going. I missed the info fragment from the servo skull. Oh well. Oh, I just realized the more I do these, the loot quality goes up. Huh. That's neat. This will give me damage against Chaos Cultists and Chaos Demons. Cool. Just keep slapping on boosts since I'm currently not hitting the struggle wall yet. Second that happens, all this stuff disappears. No more challenges.
Our intelligence assets claim that valuable data might be recovered from the battlefield. Find some survivors and locate the intel.
So, I was reading a battle report on Bella Lost Souls. This guy set up an apocalypse fight with a bunch of people of varying skill sets. And it was just... the opening turn has to be some of the goofiest stuff I've seen. One person was a Tau player and just YOLO'd their Tiger Shark right into the enemy and lost it. One guy dumped, like, a ton of attacks into one Tau vehicle, dealing like 40 damage. And honestly, I love stuff like that. I love any game where new players get in, because you will see just the goofiest strategies, and it's fun. You know, you don't get to see that when you watch like dedicated channels or you have like dedicated players, because they're more prone to min-maxing. That happens with D&D. The number of people who are just min-max the hell out of it. The new rules for... what is it? Ooh. I might have lost a key off that servo skull then. Oh well, whatever. But with D&D, like, the new rules for grapple, I think I had mentioned it, but they make it so you initiate a grapple by doing a melee attack, and all these people are like, oh man, you just have to play an Aarakocra monk and land a hit, and then you can use their unique ability to like grab the person, teleport 30 feet up, and then drop them, and then use your free action to feather fall and take no damage while they take like 3d6 or something from fall damage. And I was like, that's cool, but that's also really min-maxy. You know, it's one thing I liked about 3.5 was you could do just the dumbest builds. Like, there's always the story of the person who made a bear, like an actual bear, and then they just poured all their stats into, I think, bluff, and they convinced the NPCs that they weren't a bear, and then one guy saw that, like, managed to make a good save against the bluff check and saw that it was actually a bear. And, like, one, that's good on the DM for actually playing along with it, instead of being like, no, that's stupid. Because I see that a lot of DMs online, when they're looking for groups, they have very, very specific things, like, you can't play this, you can't play this. And I understand when you don't want people min-maxing, but it boils down to, like, you can't play this race of character, or this subclass, and it's like, dude, calm down. That's why I've always been hesitant of playing in like kind of a pug game online, because I don't trust DMs I don't know. Because they're just... if you do something, they're gonna punish you. While a DM you know might be like, you know what, I'll let it slide. They'll try to come up with something to counter you. But they'll also typically, if they're good, they'll reward your ingenuity. But yeah, I don't like min-maxy stuff. It gets a little boring, makes builds boring. It's like you see it in, like, COD. where everyone's like, oh, you gotta build this, 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 and then you have the top weapons and no one does anything else. Oh good, we actually defended the storm watcher, I think. Wait, was that just a side objective? Huh. Fancy side objective. I didn't grab the guy. Are you kidding me? Okay, we're doubling back to go get the guy. But going back to just like the battle report, I think it's fun. Yeah, people play sloppy, but that's where a lot of fun comes in, is just getting new people into the game and getting people to have fun. I feel like that's lost in a lot of stuff lately, is just enjoying the game for the sake of the game. But at the same time, I can't put that all on players. I think part of that is how devs make these games. They're very particular, or you look at like competitive stuff. Competitive gaming is such a mixed bag.
Inquisitor, we have located useful enemy intel on the southern perimeter. These Imperial Guardsmen will help you along the way.
Like, one thing that stands out is like the play to earn concept you're seeing a lot of crypto bros push. There was one game, God, I can't remember what the name is. It had like a borderline Minecraft thing where to produce stuff you had to like get resources, and this guy paid like Minecraft builders like 10 grand to make a thing, and he was using like Malaysian kids to farm the resources, and he was paying them. And I was just like, what is this? Honestly, what is this? And I think a big part of this whole play to earn tokenomics stuff is it doesn't really sync up. You know, how do you justify a game becoming a job? And I mean, I understand like competitive gameplay, but when it's just like, oh man, I gotta clock in for my 8-hour shift on Crypto Block World so I can pay rent, like, what? You're farming resources in a game where at the end of the day it's just code. It is meaningless code that is everything's artificially rare. It's all artificial scarcity. And like people have pointed out with those kinds of games, the currency value in like the crypto stuff is high when there's not a lot of people playing, because then there's not a lot of it being produced, so you can set the price. But when more people get in, more of the commodity is being produced, and therefore the price goes down. So it's like you need these things to remain niche, but they're not sustainable if they're niche. So it's this kind of self-defeating build-up. It'll be interesting to see what people eventually come up with to remedy these issues, but I think it's what's gonna hold back this whole crypto gaming idea is just things like that where they can't function. You know, these things can't function in a grand scheme. Not to mention, like, all that stuff with, like, generating resources and stuff. MMOs already do that, and they don't have to tie real-world money to it. Granted, people do. RMT is a thing. And it's a bane on many games. I mean, that's... People say that that's essentially what, like, 80% or 90% of the Chinese server for EVE is just RMT.
Objectives are met. All data sermons are now in
And that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest.
Praise the Omnisire.
Alright, so we got a couple skill points, or a skill point that's useful. I had accidentally respec'd this, so I just put everything back into radius for AoE. Since the damage, it's all range, so I'll just put it into this first. I don't really need any of that. The crit chance is a possibility. But as it stands, I think this is as good as we need. See, I want to go into the physical attacks because there's some good stuff in here. You know, flat critical hit, boost to bleed. Concussive trauma, that's really good. They take 10% damage per stack, but I don't know how it's going to work because it resets, changing targets resets the debuff, so I don't know how it's going to work on like an AoE. I think at this point we could get away with boosting just AoE skill damage. Suppression's going to be the last thing I care about. Critical hit strength will be useful. Radius, that's actually really useful too. Because, I mean, this boils down to 10%, and that's just another 10%, so we're looking at 20% radius boost. I think we'll go with this first. We'll go down the damage line. That's a waste. Cone and path. I don't do cone or path skills. And then, yeah, just keep going resilience. We have to hit 25. And then we can just ball out of control. At that point, honestly, I think I'll go force. Because 25% damage when above 75% warp heat is free shields and free health. Warp damage bonus, they're really pushing for me to just slot in 50% damage as warp damage on a bunch of stuff, if we're being real. Because you got that, you have the skill stuff, it's a lot of it. So I see kind of a drive in that direction, and I can't really fault them. $70, so we're still on kind of level par here. Yeah, we'll keep doing this. Is going to bite me in the ass eventually, I know it will. But until it does, we'll just keep going. Warp damage dealt by enemies. Hope they have guys who can deal warp, otherwise that's a free hazard for me.
The enemies of the Imperium are infinite, and such a vast threat can only be fought with ingenuity. Kill the masters, and you will render a sea of vermin helpless.
God, I love just getting the free shield the second I pop this. Or being able to run into like a horde of gobblers, nuke them all instantly, and get free health and shield. Ah, God. like I said before, I wish like Destiny and stuff would implement stuff like this. I love this whole design. I love ARPGs and stuff like this. Any looter I find very enjoyable. As long as they're done right. I feel like a lot of them try to be too different from each other. When it's like, you can be pretty similar and just have different settings. Oh god, that is just nasty. Just running through dudes. Oh yeah, I bet I could stack this even further. If I dedicated more stuff to just fire damage, I could probably do just stupid amounts. I mean, look at this. This is absurd, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Success is measured in blood.
But you know, as cool as this is, I don't know how it's going to be higher difficulty. Because I could sit here, say this is the be-all, end-all, best thing ever, I am unstoppable, and then, you know, +2 difficulty down the line, I'm getting 2 tapped. You know, that's just my luck at this stage. But for now, it is solid. You know, I'm gifted with enough sustain. I love being able to body the plague ridden as they're summoning in. I kind of wish we had more varied challenges.
Analysis complete. The data slate you found has a unique encryption litanies running. You need to access a decryption terminal.
Okay, where do I find a decryption terminal then? Guess that's another thing I have to keep an eye out for. Don't see a terminal around here, but I'll destroy everything for money. God, I keep remembering Necromunda Hired Gun. They'll never do it, but I wish they would do like a DLC and just go nuts and expand the game. I know they did a change. I'm glad I did my playthrough when I did, because they did a change where you can't chain like the melee kills anymore, the executions. You now have like a cooldown. Which I get, but at the same time, if all I can do is like, for the most part, execute garbage, then it's like, why not let me? I don't know. It's definitely a game that could have done with more. I think part of the problem... Wow, that's a lot of guys. But I think a part of the problem was just... the environments were kind of just like, here's a boss arena, and then here's corridors. And I would have loved to have seen more open areas so that you could have, like, enemy vehicles. You know, something where you could shoot out a driver or shoot out a gunner and then blow up. Especially because, like, you have the grenade launcher. And I never thought that grenade launcher was useful. It's cool, but never was I like, oh yeah, I'll give up an assault rifle for this. It's like, nah, this thing has crap ammo capacity. I'm gonna blow myself up because I always do. Like, where's the incentive here? Oh, we got another teleporter. So we know what that means. We found our decryptor. We need more of this stuff throughout the levels. These are fun. Actually finding a teleporter and not just being like, oh yeah, this will just send me to the, you know, the last intersection. Well, damn, this sent me to the last intersection. You lied to me. Why would I need to teleport one room away? Yeah, I thought about switching the perks so that I had the 90% damage while an unhinged warp heat. But I sit in, like, the yellow range. I can't remember what that is. But I sit in that range so often that I feel like it's almost wasteful not to just remain in that. Because, like, okay, right now I have increased damage. Cool. I'll pop a couple abilities, then bump into the next tier. But right after that, I'm gonna end up probably getting kills. Like, let's say here. Okay, still within range. But when you kill enough guys, you make back what you spent. Especially when it's like a champion and you take, I think, it's either villains or champions take 50 warp heat out of you. It's like, well, that knocks me from red to low orange or even green. So I don't see... now I kind of question whether I want to go max warp heat build. But I think because I can respec the points in that for free, I think I'll try it, see how I play, and if it's worthwhile, I'll keep it, otherwise I'll just ditch it and find a new build style. But I guess the other... See, my gear kind of makes me not want to do it because I don't need all that lifesteal anymore. Yeah, I can always use more lifesteal, and maybe that's the play, is I do need to sit at high warp heat and just lifesteal continually. But I also, like I've said, I don't like that because usually when you take enough damage to be low health, it's usually just massive damage. So you don't get a ton of time to sit down and go, oh, you know, I can handle this. It's more of like, oh god, everything is collapsing around me simultaneously. What do I do? Please help.
You severed the head. Now you can watch the body wander aimlessly until it withers and dies.
The only times it works are like that, where I can just walk up and just shove my abilities in someone's face. But even then, that might not work. I don't like that I didn't find that terminal. Do I... I'm gonna consult the map, because it says stuff here. Enemy data slate. I should probably care about this. You know what, I'll look, and if I find anything, you'll see it. If not, the mission will just end. Well, that's fancy. Not that great, but still fancy. Yeah, I couldn't find anything on the data slate thing, so it is what it is. Yeah, and we're gonna mulch that. Only a 4-slotter. And we'll call that for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, so let's just hit another one of these. Do we want to start putting... No, what? No, we're not going to start putting challenges on here. We're just going to go for it.
Transfer complete. Teleportarium locked down. As far as I know, all the Imperials who asked for immediate help have been found. I fed the coordinates to your tactical sensorium. Save as many of these unfortunate devils as you can. But for what greater or darker purpose, I wonder.
Yeah, so I couldn't find the terminal, so I don't know what they meant for the player, like the enemy data slate. I searched the entire level, every head and tail of it, and just could not find anything. So my best guess is it's just something you're like, oh, you just have to extract with it. If not, well, they should have gave me something. That is admittedly one complaint, now that I think about it, is they introduce a lot of cool mechanics in these Void Crusades, but they're things you don't find very often anywhere else, if at all. And it's like, okay, well, I'd like to know what these are so that I know how to handle them in the future. Look at that, I'm not even hitting guys. I'm just standing next to them, and they take damage. Oh, that's just brutal. I love it. It's kind of funny that the Khorne worshippers explode in more blood than anyone else. I know it's probably the intent, but I just think it's really goofy. It's like these guys are just filled with more blood than normal. You know, nobody here has an iron deficiency or is anemic. All these guys have whatever the inverse of anemia would be. A blood surplus.
Some Imperial meat from the grinder. Get to the next group.
Yeah, for taking, having a 20% roughly, I know it's 22.6, but I'm just gonna round it. A 20% damage reduction. I'm seeing it a little bit in my shield, but I'm also playing really stupid. And these enemies are also very melee oriented, so me walking into them for my fire is also just kind of feeding a bit of damage their way. But in general, they're going down pretty easy. I wasn't expecting much difficulty, just because it is very early on. But, you know, I always expect some challenge. I wish those chests would summon different demons.
You just saved some Imperial meat from the grinder. Get to the next group.
Yay, saving more Imperials. I know I said this before, but I just thought of it again. I wish there was a Mobile Suit Gundam, like, wargaming game. Because, like, I love Gundam. I think it's fun, except for, like, the builder stuff and SD Gundam. I think those are boring. But all the other stuff I find to be pretty fun. And honestly, it works so well. Yes, they're not as... They wouldn't be as fancy looking as proper Gunpla, but you're also buying them for different reasons. You know, this way you could have infantry and tanks and all that, and have these combined arm fights, where you'd have a couple mobile suits as like your big heavy hitters, and then the rest is everything else you can field.
Get your new flock to the extraction zone.
It would also be nice because it might end up expanding Gundam a bit. My only worry is it might end up being just a slightly different version of Mech Warrior. Because, like, air vehicles would make sense. You know, you'd have helicopters that are heavily armed and stuff, much like you do in Mech Warrior. Just to deal with guys, you know. Oh, hey, we have these giant robots that will destroy a tank. What should we use? I don't know, how high can they look up? If they can't look very high up, then just fly over them and shoot them. Or, you know, hang out really far back and hit them with like an AC-130. C-130s are very good at what they do. Granted, from a tabletop perspective, you couldn't have that, but you could still do, you know, vehicles. And you could have hero units, you can have both named and generics. I just think in general it'd be good because it would flesh out a lot of the setting. Because you look at, like, Xeon, they're pretty focused on, like, Char Ansible. They're focused kind of heavily, like, that whole original, I think this is the Universal timeline? I can't remember, there's like 5 timelines. But you could have more focus on minor characters, but I think it boils down to how things are written and kind of monetized, and I think Japan, they have different priorities when it comes to this kind of stuff. And I don't blame them. You know, everybody operates their own way. It just kind of sucks when you see the potential and it's not being capitalized on or used. Because there are cool settings like Drop Zone Commander that I think are really fun and neat and just don't get the attention. I would kill for a Drop Zone Commander game. Like, there's so much within that setting that you could work with, but we don't get that.
Well done. Stand by for retrieval.
But I think that's mostly because nobody's really paid attention to it. Like, the number of people who know what Drop Zone Commander is few and far between. What's this give us? Nothing, it's just a secret mission. Okay. Quick gear mulching, nothing worthwhile. And that is all for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.